Three Laws of Robotics, of course, by Isaac Asimov, the famous science fiction writer. But behind every reasonably good idea, like the 3 laws of UX, there is a story. And today I'm going to narrate the story of how these 3 laws of user experience came about and what they are. The story begins with, believe it or not, the concept of bottom of the pyramid. Yes, bottom of the socio-economic pyramid. A book titled The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, written by late Professor C.K. Prahlad from the Wharton Business School, published in 2004, changed corporate thinking about how there could be new business models targeting products and services for very poor people in the world. And as Bill Gates put it, this book provided a very intriguing blueprint for fighting poverty with profitability. So at the time that this concept sort of appeared in the consciousness of the corporate world, and corporations started to experiment with this model, particularly in emerging countries, because large sections of the population in emerging countries across Asia, Africa, Latin America are in the space at the bottom of the socio-economic pyramid. And at the same time, designers and UX professionals like me got very inspired by what appeared to be an interesting opportunity to use our skills, not just to design and innovate for people like us who are spoiled for choice, but to use our skills to create, to innovate, to design for such a large section of the population of the world who had been till then denied access to basic goods and services that we take for granted. And so, of course, what started was understanding who were these people who constituted bottom of the pyramid. And that meant traveling, for me, traveling across Africa in order to answer the question, what could one design and sell? Sell to the poor coffee farmer in remote rural Kenya, so poor that he had never tasted coffee that he grew in his own small farm. What could one design and sell to the poor single mother who lived in a dangerous township in Durban, trying desperately to stay afloat amidst a haunting specter of death because of AIDS, of grinding poverty? And so as we went out and immersed ourselves in the lives of the bottom of the pyramid, of course, we realized that this segment was not really just a theory. This segment was not just numbers. This segment was not just beautiful charts, but they were real people who lived very hard lives, worked very hard, amidst difficult circumstances, and most of all, had real feelings. These were people who had an incredible, quiet strength. They had a strong sense of dignity and self-respect, and they were really hurting. Yes, they were really hurting, and said in so many words, I'm hurting because my bank just gave me a SIM card and said, you can do all your banking using your mobile phone, but do not come into the bank branch. Why? Why can I not go to the bank branch? Because I'm poor? That's why everything has to be done outside. They want my money, but they don't want me to go to the branch. I'm hurting because my telecom service provider gave me this really cheap and bad quality phone that I'm sure the rich have rejected. I'm hurting because even my government has created a bank account and labeled it to be specifically meant for poor people. Why do you keep creating products and services and labeling them as made for the poor? Why do we have to keep using poor things for poor people? Why do you keep pointing your fingers at us and say, poor, poor, poor? And that's when we realized what they were asking for was not shiny new products. More importantly, they were asking for their fundamental right to access and use products and services that the rest of the country used, and to use with dignity, with freedom, with self-respect. And we were shocked, because this is not what we had read about as we read this interesting new model. And then we wondered, is there any product or any service that has been really successful with the bottom of the pyramid, but at the same time hasn't been labeled as it's made for you, poor people? And of course, you just have to look at Kenya. M-Pesa, mobile money, introduced in 2007, the first of its kind, a mobile payment system, launched not by a bank, because banks don't really trust poor people. They don't really like to let them inside the door. So it was really Vodafone, their Kenyan subsidiary, Safaricom, who came up with this mobile payment system. But you know what? They didn't label it as being only for the poor. Of course, it was a very inclusive solution. It included everybody, rich or poor. But it surely made it possible for poor people to use the service. And so, while the banks would not trust a poor person, would ask 1,000 questions, would want much paperwork, would have bank branches that meant you had to travel miles, M-Pesa made it possible for you to go to your neighborhood M-Pesa agent, who could be the local butcher, the local barber, somebody you knew, somebody you were familiar with. That person wouldn't ask you questions. All you needed was your national identity card, and you could open an M-Pesa account, deposit a little bit of money, get a PIN number, just like you would do for your online banking transactions, and from then onwards, use that money to make payments anywhere in Kenya. All this bypassing the bank, and all this without throwing and flaunting in everybody's face that this was a product, a solution for the poor. I truly believe that's one of the reasons M-Pesa is such a success. 17 million M-Pesa subscribers till the end of last year, perhaps. It's because everyone, whether rich or poor, could solve problems using this particular solution. The poor people who did adopt this extremely enthusiastically did not feel that they were going in with shame to use a product that was meant only for people who couldn't afford anything better. On the other hand, they felt they were connecting with a solution with pride and with achievement that was meant for everyone and that they could use comfortably. That's what is needed, and that's what can happen if one deeply immerses oneself in the lives of the people who constitute the bottom of the pyramid. Forget all that about being a detached researcher who goes in already with all the smart solutions and ideas, who knows the answers to all the questions that these users don't know. Forget all that. Open your heart, get in there. Feel the pain, the anguish, the joy, the hope that that momentary window of time allows you to. Once you do that, you will never, ever come up with a solution that is not founded on the core values that are so dear to the people who really make up the bottom of the pyramid. Values of dignity, equality, freedom, self-respect. And so, from there came the first law of user experience. The user has the right to be served products and services with no breach of their dignity, equality, and freedom. Far too often, as user experience professionals, we do not go beyond documenting the demographic and psychographic profiles of users. But we need to. We need to go beyond that and document the deep values that are so precious to these people. And that's the only way that we can do service and justice to our profession, where we advocate users and champion their requirements. But that was really not enough. That's not where the story stopped. What about being able to do anything with the fundamental constructs, the fundamental injustices that we saw when we immersed ourselves in the ecosystem of the bottom of the pyramid? What about being able to do something about inequality? Yes, of course, we could get the insights and create a really good product or a good service, but that was really not enough. We had so many insights. Couldn't we do something to move and shake the system? Or did we have to wait till 2081 when people would finally be equal? Well, as a team, we were not ready to wait that long. Instead, we decided to look around for inspiration, to see if individual agency, collective effort by ordinary people could indeed effect change. Or was it the lot of user experience professionals to just do so much and no more? Were we just too small? Did you have to be a big lobbyist or a big politician or a big somebody to do something? Well, we didn't have to look very far. Africa, with its philosophy of Ubuntu, summed up as, I am because we are. I cannot be happy if you all are sad. And it's not something that's just there in some dusty old textbook. No, it's part of everyday life. As you immerse yourself in the spaces, in the environment of the bottom of the pyramid segment, you realize that they live and breathe this whole philosophy of taking care of each other, even with all the constraints of reciprocity. And time and again, we've been overwhelmed, reduced to tears, because a really poor farmer has, at the end of a session where we were observing and interviewing the family, she has come to us and handed over big bundles of produce that she could have sold and would have been assured of 2 square meals that day. And she refused to listen to us that we could not accept this, because she said, you came here and I have to take care of you. And so we felt inspired that with collective intent, with individual agency, it was possible to do something. We turned our gaze then to another continent, to South and Central America, where at this very moment, a trend has been defined. My home is your home. A trend where people are committed and determined to make sure that their society is equal. Consumers are driving corporations to engage with them, partner with them in active initiatives where they can do something, not just charity, but do something meaningful in dialogue with the poorest of the poor and change the order of things. And interestingly enough, this region in 2000 was considered the most unequal in terms of distribution of income. In 2010, they have equality in terms of income distribution like they've never had for 30 years in the past. So again, we were inspired to see that big changes could happen, even by just ordinary people who had the intent. But there was still this skepticism of, okay, I want to do something, I want to change something that's bigger than just getting out the next product idea, but where's the money going to come from? Do I need to be really rich? Do I need to know really rich people? Do I need to know the boss in the bank? Hey, this is an age like no other age that empowers individuals in terms of access to funding. You just have to look at the various crowdsourcing initiatives, a cursory glance at Kickstarter, incredible effort underway by thousands of people across the world, ordinary citizens, all because now there is a willingness to provide and connect and share resources. A film made on the Egyptian revolution from a citizen's perspective, completely funded by people who the filmmaker doesn't know, will never see. Creating a bus map for Dhaka in Bangladesh, something you would think the government is responsible for. But someone wasn't willing to wait any longer for the government to get this thing done. So they decided to take the initiative, get the funding, and the map is happening now. Can you imagine the benefit to millions of commuters, mostly poor and from the middle classes in Bangladesh? All because one person decided to do it. And my favorite, the Main Kafon, an Afghani artist, using his skills of being an artist and sculptor, has created these installations which are lightweight. And as they roll on the sand, on the deserts across Afghanistan, just because of the sheer wind force in the area, the spokes, when they come into contact with the earth, if there are any active landmines, of which of course there are thousands in that region, the impact detonates the landmine. That's one less landmine and with no casualties. Something that one would have thought only the military had the wherewithal to achieve, diffusing landmines. Not anymore. Inspired by the fact that individual agency was possible, our team decided that we wanted to be activists, using our skills. We wanted to be user experience activists. And so we've taken on an initiative which is very much in its conceptual stage, but I think it's very integral to this narrative, and so I'll share, also because it's very exciting for us. And this is the concept of Equalize. Equalize is a way that we would like people to inspire each other and become change agents, and not wait for institutions and governments to make change happen. At the moment, it's just visualized as a free app and as a website, but in time, we'll use other media that are not high-tech and therefore more inclusive. But at this moment, you can decide what kind of inequality you want to impact. You can then choose a location. And of course, this will be available in different languages. Again, that's part of the inclusive spirit that we would like to embed. You can decide which location you want that impact to be in. Look at what is the state of inequality for the particular aspect that you want to impact. And then choose a role in which you want to impact this inequality. You will be given suggestions of initiatives you could take. You can commit to them. And as you move your commitment towards completion, you will find that instantly there is a visualization available which tells you how you have moved the needle, how anything you did, whether big or small, created an impact. How big or how small the movement depends on the magnitude of the effort. And we hope in time, as more and more people use this, you can constantly look at how the world is being lit up by these bubbles that come up in different parts of the world, signifying individuals and groups who are taking action, and therefore moving the needle in different forms of balancing that they are trying to do in their own way. From that was born the second law of UX, which is that every UX professional must have the freedom to be an UX activist as long as it does not conflict with the first law, where you maintain the dignity of the user. And so this is the time, never before has there been a better time for UX professionals to chase the big and impossible goals because they have the skills. And technology and connectedness is making it very possible for individual activism to be successful. So then what is the third and final law of UX? The third and final law, with that we go right back to where we began, to C.K. Prahlad. Yet another concept that he had was N equal to 1, R equal to G. Fascinating. What he said was, in an increasingly global world, corporations will start to design products and experiences that will be unique to every single customer, hence N equal to 1. There'll be no more mass production. And this will be powered by the global availability of resources, or R equal to G. And of course, the example he gave was of the toy store chain Bears R Us, where every child can walk in and choose from an incredible variety and multitude of components and design their own toy bear. Because of that variety of components sourced from across the world, no two toy bears are the same. I say, let's take N equal to 1, R equal to G, and apply it to more than toy bears. Let's apply it and create that third law of UX. Let 1,000 laws bloom. Let every UX professional customize with their own individual imprint what that law is for themselves, so they can action the first two laws of being a UX activist and always preserving and safeguarding the core principles dear to the users, and thereby being able to demonstrate that power no longer always flows from the barrel of the gun. Power now can also flow from the experiences we create, empowering, liberating, magical experiences, experiences that heal, that restore balance, and reinforce the human spirit. Thank you.